Are there any Gold Star military family members present? This hero marker is dedicated to all military service members who lost their lives July 14th, 2003. Hero marker, day 19, mile 873. Sergeant Isaac Lane Page, U.S. Army. Private First Class Matthew Thomas Criswell, U.S. Army. Sergeant Michael T. Crockett, U.S. Army. Captain Renee Cardona, U.S. Army.
Have them touch the flags to the ground.
Can you guys please touch these flags to the ground and hand them to me? Present! As you were. Present! Horse! Order! Horse! Dismiss!
Great job, guys.
Good job, you guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Up top, everybody. Up top.
Do another one?
We got one more to do. Who's coming with us?
Me?
Yeah? Just be careful, guys, all right? Make sure you guys stay hydrated.
Is this the last mile?
Who's thirsty? Who's thirsty? Come here. Open your mouth. Who's thirsty? Yeah. Who else? Yeah, you ready? Yeah, buddy.
Is this
Who
the
else?
last mile?
Yeah? You want some? Keep it bowling.
I got next one.
Guys, if you want a bottle of water, you're welcome to go grab them.
Okay, we're in the city of Mammoth, and we have a lot of the Mammoth kids coming out, running the last couple miles.
Oh, no,
We might have been offline due to heat and other related things, but we're back on for last mile, and we got quite a turnout here in Mammoth. You guys ready?
I don't know. We didn't check that one. I think we're going by past the. Has to be like close to 7.
You ready?
Yep. Has to be like 5. Two rows.
All right, fall in right behind us.
Get in the line. Line.
Right behind us. Guys, this is our last one.
Last one for the day.
Last one for the day. Woo! Yeah! Last mile. Woo! Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. On the left? Okay. Thank you.
They did bring the whole town. Or at least they all know.
That girl in the back organized it.
Oh, she did.
The one in the gray.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right. Small towns who care the most.
Right.
I got no excitement going on. They're not caught up in the busyness of life. The little things are important to them.
Yep.
Laura, what's your distance? 0.3.
Whoa.
Jeez. That was Mammoth, by the way.
What?
That
was the town?
Yeah, look.
Oh, get out of here.
No, but the sign entering the Mammoth is 2 miles wide. From when the first sign was till this one.
Yeah, we're there, guys.
Yeah, they have been. They're definitely slowing down.
I'm struggling.
I would have thought the little kids would have kept up. I know what it's like, you know. Once you're done, you're done.
Keep America free.
They did end kind of early today.
What time is it?
5:30. It's been a long day for them. You know, we would have ended at the park. I don't know why they want us to run past. They just want to run us through the town. I guess we're all going to wait over there at the park. 86 miles to blow. Oh, cool. That's about right. Winkleman is 2 hours away. We're camping out there too.
That pond smells great.
But the problem
Oh,
is
yeah.
I'll usually tell her what
That'll
the
keep
letter
you
is,
going.
and then and that's it. That's no room for her. They let me go back on my own. That's good. He's very literal. Very black and white.
That's good. Because you're all over the place.
I'm a kind way gentle soul. What? You should have seen the old soul in Parker. That was an old soul.
Who? TJ?
The 94-year-old.
Oh my god. She was awesome.
who lost like 4 brothers in the war or something.
She was there the next day too.
Was she?
Next morning, yeah.
Oh, that was an old soul. Hold on, please. Yes, sir.
Guys, it's right up here.
So, alright, so if you go to the Run for the Fallen exercise,
What's up? Think you're cooler than everyone?
Huh?
Think you're cooler than everyone?
really fast.
Yeah. Showing up these kids.
Hey guys, my side, come to the right. Other side, go to the left with the camera. Almost there. Push up strong.
We almost there, Laura? Alright.
Hi.
Alright, Gary.
Everything you said went on live feed, by the way.
Fantastic.
Hey everybody, you're getting a glimpse into our personalities by us chit-chatting behind the scenes. This was our final mile with the kids. Good job, guys. Awesome.
Actually, can Lucy? Is that Lucy? Can Lucy come up? Can you arrange this for us, please? Can you hold this? Thank you. Come right up here. On this side? Right over here. So who all has flags? Not that one, but I need the smaller ones. These two here. Come on, right next to me, please. Thank you. Group, head, hold! Other aim! Military! Correction. Are there any Gold Star military family members present? This hero marker is dedicated to all military service members who lost their lives July 15th, 2003. Hero marker day 19, mile 874. Lieutenant Corporal Corey Ryan Gunrin, U.S. Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Philip Scott Shebert, U.S. Marine Corps. If you are a civilian, please place your hand on your heart when I call to arms. Present arms! Order arms! Dismissed!
Great job, everyone. Great job.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Look at this! Oh my God, thank you so much. I was dead tired. There was no way I could have ran those last 3 miles without this. Oh,
This was a great boost.
it was a great boost. Thank you so much.
You may keep those.
Thank you.
Are we going back to the park?
We're going back to the park where we're that way we can meet at the bottom right hand corner, and that's where we'll get some places.
Thank you for coming, sir.
So you're just going to jump in an RV?
I have a ride, so
Oh, you do?
I'm
Oh,
good.
fun.
Yeah. Okay, actually, I did all good.
Thank you.
I will jump in with you guys. And
Are all the kids going to jump in with us?
if you don't mind, is that okay?
I think that's fine. I think we'll all fit in there. Honored. Honored. Thank you for being out here.
I am. I try to be. Represent him well.
Represent them well. When you go back on your run, you let us know that, let people know that we have an October run, and we'd like to have some amount of sports next year.
Absolutely, I will be on board. I've run 2 3 times, so I love it.
This one is means a lot right here. I know you just found out how much meaningful it is. So I think you get a lot of it out of it. Not that you don't get much out of filming, but you get your marathon.
Yeah,
But this one right here
This is-
is something different.
exactly. And I appreciate all you guys have done to make this a success. Keep up the good work.
We're only making it
We run probably about 2 miles, and then we will get back in here, and the next person will run.
Welcome we've had
Or groups
since
of
we
people.
started.
Good. I'm glad to
Today
hear
we only
that. I'm
had
glad
2
to hear
people
that.
running from Florence all the way to here. So, thank you. Cheers. We did it.
So did you want
I think
to present
today,
some
We
one
do. So what we're doing is we're
we
presenting
got 20 in today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. And all together it was like 54
His
miles.
parents are
flying
here.
thing?
And
It's gonna
us
fly
too.
directly.
And our amazing
so the
documentarians.
we have
Whatever, guys.
is really the
They
one we want.
helped us out
The
tremendously.
hand-sewn flag.
Very, very,
So
very, very thankful.
expensive. It's more than
You
Indian.
guys have any other questions?
So the flag
Yeah, what's up?
is like the one he's carrying.
The total amount of
the one
miles that
should
we
go
have
up
run
outside.
to date,
And it's only
874?
We'll take it.
Whatever I just read
As
off
long
that.
as you have it, we will take it.
Yeah, no,
I think that's
So
right.
that would be the one that we put.
800.
But I'll be glad to present it to whoever it is.
How many more miles do we have to go? Oh, I don't even
Started
know.
from the beginning of presenting it, you can make your
5,938.
They will present it to you.
5,138 miles.
Well, you can help me.
Absolutely.
Right here. Tomorrow morning, we'll start off again. Right here. And start running for another mile. Every single mile we stop. 7? Here at 7 tomorrow morning?
Start at 7 a.m. Right here.
Right. From here?
Going to Glow.
Whoa, yeah. There's some good hills on that route.
All right, we need to mount up. So Lucy, if you want to.
Let's
All right,
go up
guys.
in the van over there.
We got 2 vans. So
Yeah, so Then, or you want to stay with Marty? He can get the keys. Can you stay with you, Marty? Yes. Perfect. Thank you, guys. I agree, Marty. Thank you very, very much.
Need some water? We're gonna go down and turn around. All right, I think we're ready.
You're coming back with us, right? All right, we're going to go down and turn around down here. Hey, everybody. We're going to go down to the park and have our ceremony down there. Keep watching.
bit wider.
Names. Awesome names. She may or may not have been preparing for them. Getting ready. Hey everybody, we are just leave it on. Hello. There's all the folks that are here at the park. Wow. This is live, by the way. Let's take the camera and take some pictures.
George?
I'm George.
Hi, I'm Lucy's cousin, Diane. Nice
Hi,
to meet you.
Diane.
So I've been working with her on this as well. I'm just a silent partner. She said to get with you about the Honor and Remember flag.
Okay. Oh, okay. This is just a donation?
No, that's for the Honor and Remember flag.
Yeah, because with the one that we have is not that expensive.
We didn't. I thought that she had ordered
But she didn't need a hand-sewn flag anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys wanted to have a hand-sewn flag for the flagpole?
Yeah.
But really, you want to fly one that's
Okay.
consumable and not just. It's so
Okay.
expensive for a hand-sewn flag.
Okay.
So you want to replace them inexpensively.
Okay.
So we have a flag for that.
Okay. So
It's
how much
only
is that one?
$50.
Okay, I can do that.
Yes. Thank you. See, that was easy, right?
Right.
So now you can get 5 flags.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so you'll have to replace them. Right?
As per the flag order we dispatched, because it's part of
We-
our
yeah, we're gonna get it.
right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. 'Cause we're incorporating that with our
I know, that's great. That's great. We'll it's all good. Where are you gonna be?
I'll be right up front.
Okay, all right. Do we have like a microphone?
We do.
or-
We have it all set up already.
Oh, perfect. All right. So we're still at Mammoth Park getting ready for the closing ceremony. You can see we have a lot of folks here.
Where's our vendors?
They're coming. Everybody's coming. We're just parking in our views and bringing that stuff. Is there a place that we could, like people might be interested in t-shirts or something?
Yes.
That's
Wherever you find space, we were trying to get tables, but that didn't work out.
all right, we might have to figure it out. Awesome. What time was everybody supposed to be here? At 6?
Yes, they were here at 6 on the highway by 5.
Okay, perfect.
Carly and her person. And then once the runners come,
Yep. Get everybody started here. And then we're going to read the names.
So I will go up, I will start the national anthem. We don't have a singer, so we are going to do the best we can. And then I will introduce you, and then you'll go up, you'll introduce the mission, your runners by name, and then they will announce the runners they ran for today. Then we will do the flag presentation. Oh, no, it's that moment of silence. Then.
So you want me to go ahead and read the names of those we ran for today? Once I say a few words?
Yes, you can have your runners do it, or you can do it, whichever
No,
you
they're gonna, yeah, the runners are.
Okay, so yes, so I'll introduce you, you talk about the mission, then you can introduce the runners, and then the runners will then announce the names, moment of silence, the salute, the taps, and then I'll step in. And then we'll need the flag. Does she have the flag?
Yeah, she wants to get everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Pablo.
Hi, George.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Pablo.
Look at this.
This is live. Yes, somebody want to take it?
Look at this.
I know. Look at this. Okay, so you're not going to take it? Nobody's going to take it? No. All right.
Are you leaving right now?
In about 2 minutes.
Patriotic with the park.
We'll be starting here in a minute. Doesn't look like anybody's watching.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's fine.
You want to see my page on my She's got one too.
We all got dogs.
Here's the flag. But we're gonna do that together, or however you want to do it.
So what I'm going to do is my grandfather, who is a Korean War veteran, is going to present it to the Ramseys, okay? And then the Ramseys are going to give it to our two girls in uniform, who will then walk it to the pole and raise it.
Wonderful. Okay. Good. So I don't have. I'm good.
You're good.
I'm out of it.
You are.
All right. Perfect.
So, can we get my grandfather?
Are you Lucy?
I am. Oh,
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this.
Do you know where we can put up product or anything?
You did a
She said they don't have a
fabulous
table,
job.
so
so
what we'll do is we'll have the runners line up and
we'll just have to
you guys go ahead.
boxes or something.
I'll go last. And okay,
Yep, we're ready. So where's
Keegan.
where's all the runners? Keegan, Tom.
I will go up. I'll start the national.
Besides me. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Did you hold this? But she has to get where the action is.
Yeah, where am I? Where am I?
Yeah.
attention to the United States flag, and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the American Run for the Fallen Run Team. Ladies and gentlemen, George Lutz.
Good evening, everyone. I feel like some of you are hiding. Can I stand up high someplace? How long's the cord? That's all I got, huh? Can I do this? Is this better? Can you hear me, see me? Get away from the speakers. Thank you all for coming out. This is the most amazing reception that we have had in the last 19 days. And the largest reception. Unbelievable to have this many come out and to participate and to be along the side of the road and just to cheer on the runners. It's just, I can't express how heartfelt that was and how much it meant to our team. We've got a very small team today. We started running 19 days ago on April the 7th in Fort Irwin, California. If you don't know where that is, it's kind of in the middle of California, right above Barstow, if you've ever heard of that, but it's in the middle of the desert. And it's about 34 miles north of Barstow. And we ran down into San Diego and then came east up into Parker and down into Phoenix and around, and here we are. 19 days later, 800 and, remember the last mile, Keegan? 874 miles we have run in the last 19 days. And so what are we doing? You know, why are we doing it? Why are we here? You recognize that freedom comes at a price. That men have to, because fighting for our country. And the very least, those men and women's lives. And we need to recognize that and appreciate that. And you're going to see the Honor and Remember flag. We decided that it was important that no name be forgotten. Call out. Some of those names may not have been heard out loud. Maybe those families are gone. Violently. But we took it on ourselves to locate and identify every fallen service member who the bombing of the USS Cole. And we took every name, moment, forward, present day, and have now compiled a list of over 20,000 service members. 20,000 men and women in all branches of service who gave their lives while in uniform, while serving, or as a result of serving, because they may have been affected by those hidden wounds that we all hear about in PTSD. Even those lives are accounted for in our compilation of heroes. So over 20,000 were identified, and then we decided how we were going to call their names and what would be the most effective. So we decided to use their date of death. So every run is a day that someone gave their life in military service to our country. Every single mile. Now maybe only one died on that day, but that's not always true. We ran for 9/11 not too long ago. We had 57 military that died on that day. It was another huge day of casualties, by which when we reached that mile, and so in organizer close to 6,000 unique days that we lost a service member. As the country, a 6,100 through 19 states, 50 miles a day. I believe we ran 50 today. And I found that the numbers we ran for on those 54 miles were 208. Those 200 heroes within a 2-month time span. Only 2 months for 208 heroes to give their life for our country in 2003. We're still running for the year 2003. Remember, we started with after mile through 15 states. We are going to call out loud every single name. Every single 120,000 names. And at 2 o'clock in Arlington, in what area they call Section 60, where most of our war on terror men and women are buried, we will have a final and concluding ceremony. And we're still adding names. Don't think that we've compiled this large list of men and women and we've just stopped. We're adding names continuously because every day service members are still dying. Every day. We add about 30 to 40 a month. And we will still be adding names all the way to the day we stop. And I hope at that moment we can call out the very last name that died at that moment in Arlington Cemetery. This is the largest, most comprehensive fallen veteran tribute ever compiled, ever, in the history of our country. And you know what? Mammoth gets it. Mammoth gets it. Absolutely. Or you would not be here with me right now. I will tell you that there are some end of the days when we read out the names of our fallen, and there's 3 people. 3. And the effort that it took to put all this together, and not just this, thank you, Lucy, not just this, but the entire route and the names and the communication and letting the families know, and the entire process we've been working on for 2.5 years to get to this point. And you will be able to say that you were a part of it. A historic journey, calling out loud every single fallen in the last 18 years. And you should be proud of that. I am proud of it. And you're going to help us tonight by listening to those names. And it may be a little lengthy, right? It's going to be a little lengthy. We have 208 names. This is the largest day of death that we have had to read so far. And how appropriate is it that we have the largest crowd to hear those names, right? And we have 2 runners. It's not every day when we only have 2 runners. One of our core runners actually is very ill today. We hope that we have 16 to 20 runners so that everybody will be able to. But you know what? We are way from the Phoenix to where the big population of runners, so to speak. And when we were in town, we had a few more runners. But you know what? As long as we have one runner around for those families, calling out those names, and even I had a couple of my photographers that ran about 7 or 8 miles apiece, right? So I definitely have to give them credit. One of them's right here. Yeah. And the other one's out. Oh, he's up on the ladder truck up there. Don't call attention to him. but they stepped up when it needed to be. Otherwise, these two guys right here would have run the entire 54 miles themselves. And how many did each of you run?
20 miles?
19 and 20 miles apiece for each one. This is Tom and this is Keegan. And it takes more than just these two guys. We've got an entire support crew. They're out filtered in the, we have the RV drivers and pace car and a lot of things going on behind the scenes. But we can put all that together and not have runners on the ground, and we can't make it happen. So these two gentlemen were our go-to today, and probably most of tomorrow. And I think we have some Marines coming in tonight to save the day. So we're looking forward to the spell tonight. But tonight we're going to read out 208 names. Now, is that supposed to be like that? Doesn't seem like it. 208 names. And these, Keegan and Tom are going to read those names for us. But I want you to do something for me. I want you to listen. I want you to listen to these names as if they were your family members. Standing for these families. Because we were recording this and those families may eventually be pulling out their names. But they're not here with us now. And so as we listen to these names being called, and as we honor each one of these men and women individually, I want you to just pretend for a moment that a name that is heard is somebody that you know. And stand for that family today. And I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let us do some honoring. And I'm so grateful for the kids that come out and run those last several miles with us. It was invigorating, to say the least. And I know I heard Keegan himself say that he just didn't have 3 more miles in him. And until that crowd of kids came out and cheered us on, it was just an amazing sight. So I'm going to pass this microphone on, and I'll take it back in a moment.
Private Dustin Elliott Bartley, U.S. Marine Corps. Fireman Philip Anthony Seymour, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer John Craig Little, U.S. Navy. Private David Evans, Jr., U.S. Army. Airman First Class Malaysia Morano Garcia, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Theodore Earl Gibson, U.S. Army. Sergeant Keeman L. Mitchell, U.S. Army. Private Kenneth A. Neely, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Brent J. Petkin, U.S. Army. Private First Class Jeremiah D. Smith, U.S. Army. Private William Tracy Chitnam, Jr., U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Mattathias Anthony Arndt, III, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Thomas F. Broomhead, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Kenneth R. Bradley, U.S. Army. Specialist Jose A. Perez, III, U.S. Army. Major Matthew Earl Schramm, U.S. Army. Private Kevin Casey Kimball, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Justin Edward Till, U.S. Marine Corps. Specialist Brandon Edward Millard, U.S. Army. First Sergeant Thomas Francis Clark, U.S. Army. Ensign Jonathan Luther Shinholster, U.S. Navy. Specialist Kyle A. Griffin, U.S. Army. Specialist Michael T. Gleason, U.S. Army. Specialist Zachariah W. Long, U.S. Army. Tech Sergeant Tony Dean Lyles, U.S. Air Force. Private First Class Jason Henry Brown, U.S. Army. Senior Airman Bradley George Phipps, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Jonathan W. Lambert, U.S. Marine Corps. Specialist William Viola Sullivan, U.S. Army. Fireman Michael Wayne DeBook, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Patrick Harrison Tulligan, III, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Commander Donna Marie Grenier, U.S. Navy. Specialist Kevin Theodore Stoffen, U.S. Army. Sergeant Anticio Peromen, U.S. Army. Sergio Herrero Martin, Jr., U.S. Army. U.S. Private Corporal Adine Benjamin Joseph. Pamela Gail Scott, U.S. Navy. Stephen Morey, U.S. Army. Naval Thomas D. Montgomery, U.S. Navy. Sergeant Ronald Colonel Phillip, U.S. Marine Corps. Private First Class Brandon F. Orbiter, U.S. Army. Airman First Class Todd James Lee, U.S. Air Force. Senior Airman Pablo Jesus Ortiz, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Travis L. Burkhart, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Doyle W. Bollinger, Jr., U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Bayet Maria Hubbard, U.S. Navy. Technical Sergeant Edward Dale McGraw, U.S. Air Force. Petty Officer David Saso, U.S. Navy. Specialist Sixto Francesco Velveeta, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Marlon Clyde Cochran, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer David James Lentz, U.S. Navy. Colonel Paul Bruce Kapelman, U.S. Army. Private Jesse M. Holling, U.S. Army. Specialist James Thomas Benford, U.S. Army. Sergeant First Class Patricia Elaine Price, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Roberto Terrazas Freeman, U.S. Navy. Staff Sergeant Kent Stephen Bex, U.S. Air Force. Specialist Lamar Kenneth Harris, U.S. Army. Private First Class Christopher Stewart Powell, U.S. Army. Warrant Officer Devon Earl Desnoza, U.S. Army. Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Dixon Robbins, U.S. Army. Sergeant Michael E. Dooley, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Joshua E. Kenny, U.S. Marine Corps. Specialist Michael James Monotero, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Commander Michael Levine Tehran, U.S. Army. Sergeant Brian Keith Watson, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Carl Kienrick Kendrell, U.S. Navy. Private First Class Garvin L. Neighbor, U.S. Army. Private Damian Joseph Isaac, U.S. Army. Technical Sergeant James Gregory Bryant, U.S. Air Force. Staff Sergeant Gregory Lee Moss, U.S. Army. Airman First Class William George Melroy, U.S. Air Force. Staff Sergeant George Michael Wilson, Jr., U.S. Air Force. Specialist John K. Kleinsmith, Jr., U.S. Army. Petty Officer John Michael Ross, U.S. Navy. Staff Sergeant Andrew R. Pecorny, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Brian Adam Wingate, U.S. Navy. Private First Class Manuel Baca, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Carol Franklin Gillum, II, U.S. Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Scott Samuel Oldroyd, U.S. Marine Corps. Private First Class Ryan R. Cox, U.S. Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant J. Jason Woosley, U.S. Army. Petty Officer J. Paul Blacksley, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Paul Hisros Agner, U.S. Navy. Private Christopher John Adams, U.S. Marine Corps. Airman Mike Alberto Mendoza, U.S. Navy. Sergeant Joseph D. Soul, U.S. Army. Private Sean D. Penite, U.S. Army. Private Kenneth Paul Russell, U.S. Navy. Sergeant Michael L. Soto, U.S. Army. Private Robert L. France, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant William T. Latham, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Christian Scott Aaron Bayer, U.S. Navy. Private First Class Michael R. Duell, U.S. Army. Specialist Jeremiah James Evershed, U.S. Army. Specialist Paul T. Nakamura, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Practice, as you were. Staff Sergeant Patrick Dale Watkins, U.S. Air Force. Corporal Anthony Darrell Campbell, U.S. Army. Fireman Nicholas Lopez, U.S. Navy. Private Jeffrey Herbert Bennett, U.S. Army.
Private First Class Justin Michael Douglas, U.S. Marine Corps. Petty Officer Caleb Elijah Wooten, U.S. Navy. Captain Seth R. Michard, U.S. Marine Corps Reserve. Sergeant Orthaniel Javon Smith, U.S. Army. Sergeant Tommy Lee Bailey, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Dominic Crisanti III, U.S. Army. Sergeant Gordon Van Gross, U.S. Army. Sergeant, as I was, Specialist Oliver Franklin Short, U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Lester Casimir Markland, U.S. Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel William Chester Kaiser, U.S. Air Force. Tech Sergeant Raymond Edward Gascon, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Major, correction. David Allen Ravulis, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Joya Chajanel Lanson, U.S. Navy. Specialist Cedric Lamont Lennon. Firefighter. Fireman Jian Hyun Lin, U.S. Navy. Master Sergeant Michael Bernard Carlett, U.S. Air Force. Corporal Andrew F. Chris, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Gregory E. McDonald, U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant First Class Vladimir Phillip, U.S. Army. Private First Class Kevin C. Ott, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Thomas E. Renzer, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Commander Randall Thomas White, U.S. Army. Senior Master Sergeant Douglas Joseph Lance Corporal L.J.C. Brown the third, U.S. Specialist Corey Allen Hubble, U.S. Army. Captain Kenneth Patrick Bartam, U.S. Navy. Master Sergeant William Edward Hoffman, U.S. Army. Specialist Richard P. Orgo, U.S. Army National Guard. Specialist Corey A. Hubble, U.S. Army. Specialist Michael Craig Nelson, U.S. Army. Hospitalman Joshua McIntosh, U.S. Navy. Captain Denny William Gingerich, U.S. Marine Corps. Senior Chief Petty Officer James L. Powell, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Jesse James Wright, Jr., U.S. Navy. Private First Class Luis Adam Largo, Jr., U.S. Army. Corporal Thomas Sotelo, Jr., U.S. Army. Private First Class Jack Gerald Englund, U.S. Army. Sergeant Timothy M. Conway, U.S. Army. Captain Daniel Adam Alexander, U.S. Army. Sergeant Alvin Edgar Felentino, U.S. Army. Specialist Kevin Kelvin Felicio Gutierrez, U.S. Army. Airman First Class Edward Byron Starr, U.S. Air Force. Private First Class Nathaniel Francisco Luigi Matt Harrell, U.S. Army. First Sergeant Christopher D. U.S. Army Reserve. Private Jesse Earl Bartel, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Alan Martinez Morlaner, U.S. Army. U.S. Army. Lieutenant David Philip Schreck, U.S. Air Force. Lieutenant Commander Manuel Ciento Montechez Moroso, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Corporal or Lance Corporal John Michael O'Brien Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Corporal Null Travis John Braddock, U.S. Marine Corps. Petty Officer Mario Gabriel Tyus, U.S. Navy. Airman First Class Jane Dunaway, U.S. Air Force. Commander Andre Maraway, U.S. Navy. Private First Class Edward J. Hergott, U.S. Army. Private First Class Corey L. Small, U.S. Army. Private First Class Edward James Hergott, U.S. Army. Chief Petty Officer Anthony James Kramer, U.S. Navy. Master Chief Petty Officer Stephen Ray Strange, U.S. Navy. Master Sergeant James Curtis Coons, U.S. Army. Captain Jeffrey Kenneth Sutton, U.S. Army. Corporal Anthony Axel Damon, U.S. Marine Corps. Petty Officer Ariana Gonzalez, U.S. Navy. Airman First Class Christopher Ray Adcock, U.S. Air Force. Lance Corporal Joshua Daniel Spear, U.S. Marine Corps. Specialist Jeffrey M. Warshow, U.S. Army National Guard. Sergeant David B. Carson, U.S. Army.
Corporal Joseph William Judson. Private Robert Leon McKinley, U.S. Army. Sergeant Chad L. Keith, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Barry Stanford Sr., U.S. Army. Sergeant First Class Greg A. Boland, U.S. Army National Guard. Lance Corporal Jason Terrell, U.S. Marine Corps. Master Sergeant Sharon Elaine Stroman, U.S. Army. Sergeant Christopher P. Geiger, U.S. Army National Guard. Sergeant Roger Dale Rowe, U.S. Army National Guard. Sergeant First Class Dan H. Gabrielson, U.S. Army Reserves. Sergeant Melissa Baez, U.S. Army. Private Watson Javier, U.S. Army. Petty Officer Dale Jefferson Hayes, U.S. Navy. Staff Sergeant Robert Eugene Well, U.S. Army. Specialist Christian Christopher Schultz, U.S. Army. Specialist Christian C. Schultz, U.S. Army. Fireman Antonio Williams, U.S. Navy. Specialist Joshua M. Boucher, U.S. Army Reserves. Sergeant Hawar C. Puello Condorando, U.S. Army. Private First Class Shashwan Demond Langford, U.S. Army. Captain Paul J. Cassidy, U.S. Army Reserve. Private First Class Matthew Thomas Criswell, U.S. Army. Sergeant Michael T. Crockett, U.S. Army. Captain Renee Cardona, U.S. Army. Sergeant Isaac Lane Page, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Philip Scott Siebert, U.S. Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Corey Ryan Guren, U.S. Marine Corps. Technical Sergeant Gary Dwayne Wetzel, U.S. Air Force. Staff Sergeant Victor David Gayton, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Peter B. Ober, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Samuel Patrick Cox, U.S. Navy. Commander Kevin A. Belanchi, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Brian Patrick Gibson, U.S. Navy. Technical Sergeant Harold Lamar Otez, U.S. Air Force. Specialist Ramon Reyes Poyares, U.S. Army. Specialist Perez Ramon Reyes, U.S. Army. Second Lieutenant Rebecca Ann
I know that was lengthy. It's lengthy every night, unfortunately. But 208 heroes were named just then and throughout the entire day as we ran mile after mile for them. And I will tell you, if the last one was your family member, you would have stood for hours just to hear that one name. One of the things that we do at the end of the reading of the names is call attention to the fact that it's not just about them. It's not just about this 208 or even the 20,000. It's about the 2 million that have given their life throughout our country's history. And one of the things that's so important about calling names out loud is that some never have that opportunity. And so what I like to do every night at this time is that is here who knew a family member, a neighbor, a friend, who may have been lost in military service, someone who died while in uniform. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say their name out loud so all of us can hear that name with you. And I know it may be difficult to do. I don't want anybody to be shy about this, because this is a moment, a solemn moment. We've already brought you to a point of emotion by which you can call out someone who may not have had their name called out for 40 years. I don't know. But if you would like to just say a name, and if you don't know their rank, just say their name and their branch of service. Just raise your hand so I can identify you. And right where you are, I want you to call out that name as loud as you can. Yes, sir.
Brothers Arthur Garcia, United Marine Corps.
Yes, ma'am.
He said the same name. Art Garcia, who went to high school with me, graduated in 1966. And he was in the U.S. Army. And his brother, Johnny Garcia, which was in U.S. Marine Corps, also in Vietnam in 1966.
Thank you.
My father's name is Alan J. and he died years ago in college, and he was in the Army.
Yes, ma'am.
Friend of mine, 1969, Antonio Esqueda from Santa Rita, New Mexico. He was in the U.S. Army. He died in Vietnam.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Alex Young and Bryce Powers, U.S. Air Force.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sergeant Clyde Garcia Jr., 4th Recon Ranger Marine, Vietnam.
Anyone else?
Over here, still. Over here.
Okay.
I have.
Carson J. Ramsey of Mammoth, Arizona, United States Army.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Paul Rufus Gates, U.S. Army. Sorry, Michael Brown.
Yes, sir. George Lewis, Vietnam, U.S. Army. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else before I close? One more chance. Call out a hero's name. We could all just bow our heads for a moment of silence, please. For these names that were read for today and those that were just mentioned. Heroes in the hearts of many.
May I have Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey come forward, please? It is with great honor, on behalf of the Clark family, we present you this honor and remember flag to be flown over our community in honor of your son, Private First Class Carson J. Ramsey, United States Army. Presented to you by Sergeant Benjamin H. Clark, United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Cecil Ramsey.
I just wanted to read a little something I wrote this morning, thinking about our freedom movement. Hope you like it. All freedom's not free. As Americans, sometimes we take for granted our freedoms and liberties. Each one of our rights and freedoms were paid for by the blood of American soldiers on domestic or foreign soil. Remember the soldiers who laid down their lives for you and me, that we can live our lives in this land of the free. And the next time you have that outdoor barbecue, go to a ball game, or just sit around the backyard having a beer with friends, remember the reason you came. An American soldier somewhere has taken a stand. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our women in uniform who will take the flag from Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey and raise it above our community. The Honor and Remember flag design is distinctive, yet simple. Each detail on the flag symbolizes an important part of the overall meaning of the flag's message. The red field represents the blood spilled by brave men and women in America's military throughout our history, who willingly gave their lives so that we all would remain free. The blue star represents active service military conflict. This symbol originated with World War I, but on this flag, it signifies service through all generations, from the American Revolution to present day. The white border beneath and surrounding the gold star recognizes the purity and sacrifice. There is no greater price an American can pay than to give his or her life in service to our country. The gold star signifies the ultimate sacrifice of a warrior in active service who will not return home. Gold reflects the value of the life that was given. The folded flag signifies the final tribute to an individual life that a family sacrificed and gave to the nation. The flame is an eternal reminder of the spirit that has departed this life, yet burns in memory of all who knew and loved the fallen. May this honor and remember flag fly over our community for now and years to come. We will always honor their sacrifices and remember them individually by name. Ladies and gentlemen, your honor and remember flag. At this time, we would like to give a special thanks to everyone who came out today and supported our community event. It was unbelievable. I cannot tell you how proud I am of each and every one of you for coming forward today and celebrating this day with us. I'd like to thank our special sponsors, La Casita Cafe, the Lions Club, the Alps, the VFW, and everyone who supported this event today, Mammoth Fire Department, Dudleyville Fire Department, and all of the community who came together for this one special day. I thank you. George, do you have any closing thoughts?
Again, you heard my thoughts, the emotion of what we do. I can't thank you enough for being out here and standing for so long. I know for some of you it might be harder than others, but it means a lot to all of us. We cannot do this from 1 mile to another or one day to another without some kind of assistance. If any of you are interested in a t-shirt or a poster or something that we've got that would help us get to the next city and to the next state, please, right in the middle here, we've got some things that may have interest, or if you just want to drop $1, anything would help us. So thank you. God bless you guys. What an amazing turnout. Lucy is an incredible woman. She's probably one of the leaders in this community. We've never met except today. And I appreciate her effort, and I hope you guys do too. And God bless you all, and be safe.
Special thank you to the Knights of Columbus. It was brought to my attention that there's a very special gentleman out in the audience today. He's celebrating his 80th birthday. He is an Army veteran, and he is from here in the Tri-Community. Please join me in singing happy birthday to John Wagner. Come on up, Mr. Wagner. And no one's allowed to laugh at my voice. Mr. Wagner, on behalf of your community and everyone here, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Wagner. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, everyone.
To record it all?
I think so. Got it.